Hey folks, thought I'd shoot a little kind of a different video today. This video will be kind of a book review and deal with the topic of professional wrestling. I know up to this point I've only done one video that wasn't music related, and that was back when I did a sort of a tribute to Adam West when he passed. But I've been meaning to do more varied videos just because I have different interests, and I enjoy watching different types of videos. In fact, I didn't really get into watching videos off of the vinyl community. I actually started watching videos from a couple of movie collectors, mainly DVD collector 1974, I believe. James, he's started watching his videos more than anything, and then I started getting into Scott Waters' music videos, and then finding out as I was watching his, seeing the different guys that were commenting and sending me CLT and watching their channels, and that's how I kind of got into this. So anyway, all of that said, let's go ahead and talk about the book I want to talk about. The book is Kenny Bolin. Kenny the Star Maker Bolin. I probably screwed you too. Just finished this book. What a fun read. I always have loved biographies probably more than any other type of book. As far as novels go, So, who's Kenny Bolin? Well, if you live in Louisville, you can't kind of help but know who he is. After all, I mean, you can see from the cover, he was the king of OVW wrestling. Okay, so let me give you a quick Cliff Notes version of wrestling and how I came to know of Kenny Bolin. I started watching wrestling back in the early 80s. I believe it was during a flu epidemic at my high school. And it was one Saturday evening, and I'm trying not to puke, I think, and lay there and find something to watch on TV. And I think what I ended up seeing was a match on Georgia Championship Wrestling, because we had cable by that time, and Steve-O was fighting the Mongolian Stomper. And the Mongolian Stomper's using all these special nerve holds, and it all was so dramatic. And I guess I was hooked after that match. So back in the early 80s, there were 3 wrestling shows that you could watch on a given Saturday, and I'd probably watch all 3 of them if I could. And that would be ICW, International Championship Wrestling, which was a company owned by Angelo Poffo, who was the father of Randy Macho Man Savage and Leaping Lanny Poffo. And that would come on first. It was about an hour long. And then Memphis Wrestling would come on. And that was a much older company owned by Jerry Jarrett and Jerry the King Lawler. And I would watch that one. And that was about an hour long. And then every Saturday evening for 2 hours, you got Georgia Championship Wrestling off of the Superstation, WTBS. That show would later become World Championship Wrestling. So I would watch all those. And with the 2 local, well, sort of local, the ICW was kind of a renegade. Back then they had territories, and wrestling owners were supposed to honor the territories. For Kentucky, the territory was supposed to be, I guess, Jerry Jarrett and Jerry the King Lawler's for their Memphis wrestling. They would come up to Rupp Arena and have their cards. And I saw some pretty big matches up there. I saw Superstar Dundee versus, I believe it was Bobby Eaton in a scaffold match. I saw Jerry the King Lawler fight Kamala, the Ugandan Giant. That was all cool. Saw the Fabulous Ones. A lot of great Memphis wrestlers. Well, during that time, ICW was also operating. ICW being the company owned by Angelo Poffo, but they were kind of the renegade company. There were conflicts between the ICW and Memphis Wrestling over where they could hold their events. So I would go from Danville, which is where I grew up, Danville, Kentucky. I would go up to Lexington with my buddy Tim Rose. We'd watch Memphis Wrestling up at Rupp Arena. Or sometimes I'd just go to the Danville National Guard Armory and watch ICW wrestling. And that was really cool because that'd be like in a National Guard Armory where maybe 50 to 100 people showed up. Getting front row seats was incredibly easy. And I saw some, I've seen Randy Macho Man Savage, 3 feet away from me. Nothing separating us but a thin little rope that they had strung across. And so those were all good memories. Saying all that to get up to the current day, I used to work at a homeless shelter. And we had a program called the Hope Program where young men and women would come in and volunteer for a year or so and work with the homeless. And a lot of times I'd invite the guys over to watch WWE pay-per-views. And one summer we were doing that, but I don't know, for some reason the pay-per-views weren't falling in a way where we could go see one easily. SummerSlam, I think, was coming before. By the time SummerSlam had come around, the guys in the Hope Program would have been gone or something. So I got the great idea, hey, wait a minute, we've got a company here in Louisville called Ohio Valley Wrestling. Let's go watch it live. So I looked up on the website, figured out where they were and how much it cost to get in. And we went and saw Future Shock 2. And I think that was back around 2009, something of that nature. Anyway, we watched Future Shock 2 and loved it. There's nothing quite like seeing wrestling live to really appreciate it. And Davis Arena was a lot like the Danville National Guard Armory in that there wasn't a bad seat in the house. They've set up a commercial warehouse for their TV tapings, and once every month they have a big Saturday night special. And that's basically what that was. And so we went and saw it, loved it. I started watching OVW TV. And a couple weeks after Future Shock 2, Kenny Bolin came back to take his spot at the announce table. And Kenny was hysterical. Great heel announcer. He had been a heel manager. Prior to that, he had managed, when OVW was the WWE's developmental territory, he managed a lot of the top talent that came through. Kenny Bolin managed John Cena when he came through OVW. He also managed guys like Mark Henry and Rico Constantino. So he was a great manager, and then when I saw him, he was a great heel announcer. He cut this. I remember the first night I saw him, he cut this promo about having been away and being injured because he said Jerry Lawler had hit him in the eye so many times he had developed he had a chronic glaucoma. So I think you either have glaucoma or you don't. But it was a hysterical bit, and he really added a lot to that commentary team. He and Dean Hill together were just magic, and so he did that. Eventually, he left, and ever since, Ohio Valley Wrestling has just they've had Dean Hill there up until a year or so ago when he kind of took over ownership. And they've had Gilbert Corsi, who's a local newscaster, at the desk. But they've had guys shuffle in and out, and they've never really been able to replace Kenny Bolin. I don't know why, they just, as good of a organization as Ohio Valley Wrestling, they can't seem to figure out that Bolin had a talent and understood the psychology of pro wrestling, and not just any guy can go in there and duplicate what he used to do. And so they're still struggling to get that desk fulfilled, or get that filled properly with somebody that can do the job. Anyway, let's get to the book. He put this book out several years ago. Of course, his group, when he was managing, was called Bolin Services. And so this book actually comes with a bunch of different covers. You can find him on Facebook fairly easily, and you can order the book straight from him. He also sells a number of other items, including headphones. How he got into the headphone deal, I don't know. But he has his own Beats by Bolin. Anyway, there's two ways you can get a hold of this book right now that I know of. I got mine from Amazon for $15 because at the time I bought it, I think he was under the weather and not really doing orders, and I didn't want to wait. I had been itching to read this book for a while, and I had the money, and I just thought, I'm going to go ahead and get it. But if you order it from him, it costs, instead of $15, it costs $25, but he'll sign it for you. And I probably should have waited and signed it and got him to sign it, and he probably would have got more of the money for it that way as well. But like I said, at the time that I bought it, I just really wanted to read it. So I got it, and I wasn't disappointed. I've read a number of wrestling biographies, and some of them have been really good. Mick Foley's Have a Nice Day, Chris Jericho's first one. This one's right up there, and it's unique. The way he laid out the book, a lot of it are the stories he's telling. And what's funny too is he'll tell you up front, that really he's not going to let truth get in the way of a good story, and I enjoy that. It kind of takes me back to the good old days of wrestling when sometimes you didn't know exactly what you were seeing was real or fake. I mean, back to the good old days when like Jerry the King Lawler went on Letterman with Kaufman, and had to sit there and wonder, are they really enemies, or is all this a work? And they, of course, they're not going to tell you. And so, reading this book, you kind of read it knowing that this is this version of the truth, and it's kind of cool that way. But he also, the way he lays it out, it isn't just him telling the story. They very easily, let's see if I can find a page here. The other people are allowed to, or other people have opportunity to add their little bit. So you'll see, like here on this page, Jim Cornette contributed that little bit, and then we go back to Kenny Bolin. And so they lay it out in a good way, so you know who's talking, and giving different sides of the stories, which I thought that was pretty generous of Kenny to allow someone like Jim Cornette, who has continuously held him down, to have a say in his book. I mean, he could have been. You couldn't even have called him selfish if he had just said, "Hey, this is my side, and I'm telling my side." He let Jim Cornette, out of the kindness of his heart, he let Jim Cornette have his say in his book. I just don't see how you can get much bigger than that. A lot of heart with Kenny Bolin, the Star Maker. And it is a fascinating book. There are some pictures in the middle of the book that show his career. Yeah, just a fantastic book. I really recommend it. That's what the back looks like. So that's it. Kenny the Star Maker Bolin. It's a funny book. A lot of great stories about wrestling. There's some touching parts in here too, especially about some of the men he managed and they passed just way too soon. And so I just wanted to bring a little bit of a spotlight to that book to my friends in the VC who are also wrestling fans. This might be a book worth checking out. Sounds like I got a message, doesn't it? All right, so Kenny the Star Maker Bolin, check out his book. And that's it for this video. And I'll be shooting some more probably later tonight. So for now, peace.